definitely 90s rock, you know.
The Stacy's Mom edition. That was the prompt to make the Pints of Politics song.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense then. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for watching episode
89.
89. Shout out to Comer Distributing. Thanks for sponsoring this episode and providing this week's cold beverage.
What is this? Juiciest
Yeah.
IPA? Juicy IPA by Primal Brewery.
Yep. Out of Belmont, North Carolina.
Yeah, right on the other side of my district.
Good can art. Good tasting beer.
It's like a doctor.
Not too
look.
hoppy.
I had my first sip. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, man.
So
On the can, it talks about grape and melon flavors. I'm not getting
I don't taste that at all.
I'm getting hoppy, but
Long as it isn't that cheer wine.
yeah,
Yeah.
boy.
I had people coming up to me saying, that cheer wine's one of my favorite beers. I can't believe that y'all didn't like that.
They must just like cheer wine.
They must have just passed the age of legal drinking.
I mean, I was like,
some cheer wine.
wow. But yeah, man. So another busy week with only 3 more weeks left.
And one of them's going to be budget.
Yeah, and we're coming back.
We're going to have to come back.
You know, we're not going to get it all done.
The Senate has 100 bills of ours sitting.
Yeah.
We passed most of our House bills this week off the floor.
Yeah.
So now we just have to focus on the Senate bills that are coming up.
Yeah, right. And we have, I had a medical subcommittee where I had 5 Senate bills. Right. So all of those are coming to full next week. So look forward to taking a lot of those up. And a lot of the stuff now that we're seeing is we have a limited amount of time. So we're trying to set priorities. House has priorities. Senate has priorities. You know, we've had the REINS Act over there for a year. We've had parental rights over there. And that hasn't even gotten a hearing on the Senate education.
This is where the games begin.
This is frustrating. So
yeah,
this is where
Shazam hasn't gotten a hearing yet.
This is where a lot of times, folks, you'll see Senate has passed some Senate bills over, the House has passed House bills over, and when the House has priorities like whether it's getting rid of DEI, whether it's parental rights, whether it's cutting out government regulations, if the Senate's not taking those bills up, we'll take the Senate bills that have passed over, strike an insert, and throw our priorities on their Senate bills and use the Senate bills as a vehicle to at least get some of those things done.
I'm going to start throwing Shazam and REINS in every bill.
Right. You know, so, and again, this has happened before. This happens every year about this time where, you know, the House gets frustrated that we have given ample time for the Senate to take up some priority bills of ours. And
the Senate gets frustrated
same
on the same way.
Yep, it's equally. Senate. It would be great if we could align some priorities and get some of that pushed over to the governor's desk to make it into law. But we'll see. We got 3 weeks left. So how was your week this week?
The week was good. Wide open as always.
Yeah.
Started off. It had a huge LCI committee, full committee, going through numerous
everything from go-karts to.
Yeah, the go-karts bill.
What
was different.
Making an age requirement?
Well, I think it's, so if you go down to like Carolina Adventure World, just south of us, you know, these teenagers that have driver's license can't get on these go-karts if they are going that fast. So this was just basically saying if you have a driver's license and you could drive a car or a Jeep on the track at 50 miles an hour, we made it up to 50 miles an hour.
Okay.
So nothing above that, but up to 50 miles an hour for these tracks, you should be able to participate.
Okay. And I traveled up to D.C. again. I felt like, you know, I was stepping into your shoes, you know, going up to D.C. and talking to all the bigwigs. But no,
I was kind of hurt I didn't get an invite to that.
Now, this was more for work, you know, in the construction space. Wanted to understand more about data centers. So it was actually dual. It helped me with the legislator side, the regulatory environment, but also, you know, what's the environment for data centers, not just here in South Carolina, but across the country. And, you know, there was a lot of data center companies there. There was the end users there, vendors, contractors, all were in DC at that conference. So, you know, sat in on a lot of panel discussions. And I tell you, man, it's fascinating because that's sort of you know, it's at the beginning stages of the life cycle of data centers. And folks, whether you like them or not, data centers will be essential to today's economy and then
To the future.
the future economies. I mean, it just is. But how do you do that in a reasonable, responsible way where
Correct.
it doesn't pull on so much energy, where those energy costs are passed on to the ratepayer, right?
Matter of fact, if you look at the 5 states with the most data centers in them, they pay lower for
Yes.
electricity
Yes.
than the states without them.
Yep.
And a lot of that has to do with the data centers building the infrastructure.
Yep.
So we want to make sure we're not putting things on the backs of ratepayers as they're
Right,
starting to
right.
expand.
And then also, the technology has progressed to where the early models of a data center brought on more water consumption, right, to cool
Right.
the chips and things of that nature, where this new innovative technology that's being used in today's data centers,
A closed loop method.
yeah, correct, doesn't have that kind of pull on our water systems. And so I just think there's a lot of stuff out there, looking right over here in Spartanburg County, they had a data center that got rejected. And, there was a lot of community input of, hey, we don't want this. And I think they're basing those decisions on just information that's either old
Off the scare tactics that are
or
being put out there.
it's incorrect. It's bad information. And so,
Well, and some of it is legit questions.
Yeah,
You
no,
know, I
they're
mean,
legit
Just like
questions.
transmission lines, these massive transmission lines.
Yep.
Well, if you need these massive transmission lines and then you're so close to a data center, could that affect health?
yeah,
Could that affect crops, environment? Those are some studies that have to be put in place, I'm sure. But at the same time, and I've said this before, there is, and what people do not realize, I've heard this for 6 months now, that there is a PSYOP going against data centers in the United States solely because our foreign adversaries are worried about the AI race. So the one way you can slow us down in the AI race is to stop us building data centers, which artificial intelligence needs data to
Right.
continue to progress.
Well, and just again, want the people to have correct, accurate information, right? So the questions about does a data center, what's the best place to site a data center? What's the best place for noise concerns, if any? The consumption of the power or the capital construction costs, that if you set a data center here, what's the cost of that brand new substation plus upgrading of the existing infrastructure of distribution and transmission lines, making sure that those costs, those capital costs, don't get passed on to the ratepayer, right?
Right.
And so, and then also water consumption. Those are legit questions, but there's
Especially
also,
for us on the Catawba here.
yeah, but there's also answers that are based on real evidence and facts. And so that's what I would challenge folks to make sure they're basing their decisions on when they say yes or no to a data center, right? Because if you look at data centers, they could really improve rural South Carolina if you site them properly, make sure that the user, the data center owner, is investing the money for the capital improvements, right? You're not those costs don't get passed along to the ratepayer. If you look at the potential recurring tax dollars that would come off that data center, that could make a huge impact to rural South Carolina, who maybe can't afford a sheriff or can't afford fire protections because they're just so rural and they don't have the recurring tax dollars to pay for it. Folks, if you got a data center kicking off 15 or 20 million of new recurring dollars in, say, Bamberg, South Carolina, that can make a drastic positive impact to the county's services that they offer.
Yeah.
And all of those types of things.
A county budget may be, say, $40 million.
Yeah.
If you can get $20 million from one company that did not bring in but maybe 15 employees
Right.
to the area, especially with Act 388, we're talking about funding our schools without having to put the burden on our small businesses, and continue to keep from having to raise millage. You know, that's one of the complaints that we hear all the time, is that everyone always talks about, well, my taxes are too high. We just give the limit that local government can go up to.
Right.
If they go to the max, then
Yeah.
that's on the growth of the county typically.
Yep. And so that was just a trip to D.C. Again, a lot of information to digest. I don't know all of, that whole environment of data centers, but it was enlightening to see some of what's happening with data centers. And again, for our two listeners, definitely go out and do your research, do your education on data centers, especially today's data center, because I think for some reason there has been this grassroots, or what Guffey calls astroturf, type of effort to get out there and say that data centers are bad. And I'm just trying to understand that whole narrative. I'm trying to understand, and again, whether it's a PSYOP or whether it's just legitimate community engagement, I do want to understand some of those things. But my counter would be, if you cite those things where you take into consideration water usage and local input, and then you make sure that the capital improvement cost of setting down that data center doesn't get passed on to the ratepayer, I think it could be a win-win.
And
so,
local input seems to be what is causing most of the concern.
yeah,
The noise. I will use the example, if I'm not mistaken, the one that come up here in York County. They applied for a variance to allow the building to go taller.
yes,
And was approved by county council or by planning and zoning. However, they're not making the building taller, they're making the walls on the outside taller to contain the noise.
right.
That way it can shoot up if there is that humming that people complain about. But there is a problem whenever it's right in the middle of a bunch of homes.
Yeah.
And people were concerned about that.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
And we need to have those conversations before something's approved, because we can't treat everything the way that we have SILFAB.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you can't have
once it's
go-backsies.
approved, you can't go back and say, hey, we got to pull this out.
Right. And folks, you got to understand what signals that sends to a business that may be looking at your local here in York County. But if you live anywhere in the state, if you have a local government that tells a business, yes, you are zoned properly, the use is proper, and you get a permit and you're good to invest $100 million, having go-backsies is a very, very dangerous course.
Yeah.
Not only for the business that loses out on that investment, but you can imagine if a business is investing, I don't care if it's 5, 10, 20, or 100 million, they're going to go get an attorney and they're going to sue your local government because your local government in good faith said yes. And in good faith, the business community invested that money and did what they said they were going to do. And so that then would cost the taxpayers, because if your county loses on a decision like that, where do you think it's coming out of?
Yeah, and that goes right back to your rates. Just put yourself in one of those businesses' shoes. Doesn't matter what it is. You want to build a house, and you put all this money, you invest your savings into building this house right here, and you get to the finish line, and the neighbors just start complaining, I don't want your house here.
Yeah.
But you followed every guideline. You asked for the right permissions to get there to begin with.
Yep. And
now your neighbors are ready to show up with pitchforks trying to take you out. It's a difficult spot to be in.
Yeah, for sure. So that was just my Sunday and Monday, and then we get into session Tuesday. And
I was supposed to be in D.C. Tuesday,
yeah.
but I decided not to because of next week having to travel.
Yep.
But is Social Media Victims Remembrance Day up in D.C.
Okay.
So a lot of the parents came in. I have not checked to see how that's gone, but yeah, it was nice to actually you be out of town.
But I wasn't out of town. I didn't miss anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I haven't missed days this year.
Yeah, yeah.
But next week will be the first time that I actually have to miss some.
All right, so we talked a little bit about our committee work. How about anything else? Let's talk about some of the receptions and things that went on.
We had the Geo Ball.
Yep. Tom Mulliken's got a foundation, and we went and supported that effort.
Yes.
Got to see the governor.
And they named the award the Mary Elizabeth Mulliken Award, which is a very cool looking award. They set it up like a honeycomb whenever we were doing a picture earlier this week. But yeah, it's about protecting the natural resources that we have here in South Carolina.
Yep. So that was a good one. We also had the Primary Care Folks Association come in and talk, and that's an important one. They hosted a breakfast for us. A lot of that primary care stuff is front and center when it comes to taking care of patients. a lot of your health clinics and stuff are involved with that association. Had some great discussions with some folks, whether it was Hope Health over out of Florence. We have an FQHC here in Affinity in Rock Hill, and so those folks are just doing some good work as well.
Well, and we had our caucus spring retreat.
Yeah, that was
so
good.
People come in from all over. I really had a good time because we had the person for government affairs for Meta come in.
Yeah.
And so every time she was talking to somebody, I would go up and mess with her and be like, hey, why are y'all talking to the enemy here? Just to mess with them a little bit. But yeah, that was fun. And we had Google come in.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Especially with the chatbot bills that are going on. Google is in a unique space to where they have to look at it from an app store and from an application, and they have the Alexa and things of that nature. So it was.
And another thing before we get into in our next segment when we talk about sort of the floor debate that went on, I do want to also talk about, folks, we are trying to deal with issues in modernizing our Department of Transportation. That bill has gotten a lot of attention. And so I wanted to preface any of that conversation with, we got into a little spat on social media.
I did.
with a
kind of my thing, sorry.
A local county council person who took the opportunity last weekend to get on Facebook, and I guess he put out a letter that the county
had issued the letter
to our delegation, but then took an opportunity to talk about how our state elected folks, us, were like just not doing our jobs by trying to pass off the responsibility to local government, and you can sort of talk about what section of the bill that was, because you got to enjoy that social media argument.
Yeah. So look, I got upset, and the reason is because I have a good relationship with Councilman Andy Litton and Watts Huckabee.
Yeah,
I represent both of their areas. So anytime that we've ever had an issue, we talk about it, we address the issue, and I had not seen the letter that county council had provided.
Right.
So it made it very, I come in and I think it's 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I see this letter on Facebook, and then in the comments was basically stating that we're trying to force the local counties to take on these roads, which is not the case. I sat on the SCDOT ad hoc reform committee. That was a discussion there. Section 12 of that bill basically stated that local governments have the ability to take on these roads.
An opt-in.
It has to be mutual consent. That's the biggest thing. So let's say it is a county, like you were talking about, that can't afford a sheriff. They say, we want to take over these roads. The state can say, no, you don't have the ability to do that.
Yep.
And vice versa. But if York County, because South Carolina is responsible for so many roads, and it goes back to whenever our senators were over counties, and the county council said, we can't handle these roads, the senator said, we'll just put it on DOT. So now we have neighborhoods that are DOT roads.
That are state roads, state maintained.
And everyone's like, well, why can't we be as efficient as Florida? Well, because we handle way more miles of roads than Florida does.
Yeah.
And they have an 11-cent sales tax.
Yeah.
To go on top of it.
Well, and again, Florida neighborhood roads aren't the state's responsibility, right?
Right.
It's local, or they're private. Secondly, our gas tax is 10 cents or so less than Florida's.
Right.
And so per capita, we have one of the larger state system of roads.
Third in the nation. Little old South Carolina's third in the nation.
And so, but that section that you're talking about, the opt-in and the mutually agreed upon between the state and local government, has been missed. And so there's been a lot of, again, just incorrect information where local, not just our local elected officials, but, just local communities have concerns that this idea that the state's just going to throw state roads, which are to say neighborhood roads, onto the locals to, be responsible for. That has been out there, but it isn't true. And so I think Andy was, again, armed with bad information.
Well, in his defense, and I actually spoke with him, the way he was being presented it and council was being presented is that we're giving you the option to take over the roads, but we're not going to fund it. Not completely incorrect,
right.
But you have the option. If you say, I want to take over these roads, well, then everyone says, well, what county would do that? Many counties might not. However, many municipalities may. They may want those roads as part of their system because they're tired of waiting on the C funds going through county council to come back and fix their roads.
Correct.
And then we gave the municipalities. So if you were a city, you were able to put it up as a referendum, allow the people to choose if they want to pay a penny to repair the roads, and counties up to 2 cents.
Well, and it's good that not only did y'all, have that dialogue on social media, y'all also took the opportunity to then call one another.
Well, that happened after
and hug it out,
Yeah, and look, everyone kept saying, just call Andy. And I was like, look, the first I seen of this letter, and I was really more mad about the letter coming from county council. I didn't see the letter. I was never given the letter.
Right.
As someone joked, it must have been lost in the mail. Maybe it was, but I never seen the letter, and I served on county council prior to going to the state. Yeah. So I have a good relationship.
Right.
Why can't someone pick up a phone and let's have a conversation? I was more upset about that. And then the next day, a post come up about our insurance rate review, which we were a part of as well going through.
Right.
And it was talking about windshields and the zero deductible. But there's a lot of information people don't understand on the cost of windshields varying so much.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff going on.
Worked out, though, by the way.
Yeah, I did just want to highlight that because some folks were like, I thought Andy and Brandon were cool. I'm like, they are. They were just having a disagreement. It probably could have been solved quicker if they hadn't have, fired shots on social media. But hey.
We're both passionate people from this area.
Yeah.
That it's like, okay, if you want the smoke, you're going to get the smoke. So we kept feeding each other smoke.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Basically.
And so now shifting gears from that, another thing that we had the opportunity to do was introduce the Farmer of the Week.
Yes.
Not this week, but 2 weeks ago in Caroline Lewis of the Farmer's Feed. And she's actually not a farmer, but what she is she is a marketing person and communicator and has family background in farming. And it just got a conversation going between her and I about some of the struggles that our South Carolina farmers are going through. And farming's becoming less economical, and she's trying to get the word out about that. So she actually has a podcast herself, and we wanted to have her on. So I met with Farm Bureau earlier this week that really was inspired by my conversation with Caroline Lewis 2 weeks ago, and started going through some of the challenges and the struggles of South Carolina farmers, and just thought it'd be a good opportunity that maybe we can cross-pollinate, have her on the show.
Yes.
And talk to her about some of those challenges that South Carolina farmers are facing, and just educate our audience, because we're here in Rock Hill, we're in an urban environment. We don't have a lot of folks who farm, but in the western part of the county, in York, Clover, Hickory Grove, some of those, and just west of Rock Hill.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Join us next segment. We're going to have Caroline on.
Absolutely.
And educate all of us.
This episode of Pints of Politics is brought to you by Comer Distributing. Comer Distributing Company is a wholesale beer distributor located in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Founded in 1971, Comer is a family-owned business that distributes beer and other beverages to York, Chester, Fairfield, Lancaster, Kershaw, Lexington, and Richland counties.
Nobody reads through, so we pour one strong, let the record spin. If you want to know the truth, pull up and listen in. There's truth on tap and live.
Pints and Politics, Stacy's Mom edition.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, in this segment, we welcome Caroline Lewis of the Farmer's Feed. We had the pleasure of introducing you 2 weeks ago as Farmer of the Week, the Farm Bureau Farmer of the Week. And you and I had a great conversation talking about some of the challenges that South Carolina farmers are facing, and just wanted to have you on the show to discuss all that stuff. So give the two listeners just a brief introduction, who you are, how did you get into this, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so my name's Caroline, and I am originally from Rock Hill, first graduating class out of South Point. But I left for college, went to school in New Orleans, went the D.C. route, lived in D.C. for a bit, and then I moved to New York City. So I was there for 8 years.
Wow.
And
New York City.
New York City.
All good farming towns.
Exactly, yeah, all good. But the irony being that they were all really big food cities. And if you start to notice, the best restaurants were the ones that were cooking in season and sourcing from local farms. So even if you're in New Orleans, there's a lot of farms. In New York, there's a ton of farms, New Jersey. So that kind of started my interest in, okay, there's something more about the farmers are providing this food, and how do we get them in front of more consumers? Plus my family. I'm from a farming family. My dad grew up on a dairy farm in Vermont. My cousins are dairy farmers in Florida. So it's always been something that's really close to me. But I kind of noticed this gap that farmers are really great at farming. They have so much on their plate. And I really wanted to take my marketing career and turn it into something that I was really passionate about. So now I have the Farmer's Feed coming up on my 5-year anniversary.
Nice, congrats.
Which is very exciting. Thank you.
And you have your own podcast too.
I do. I have a agricultural marketing podcast called Raising the Barn. So with that, we really try to just bring on farmers who are doing cool things in agribusiness and marketing their farms, diversifying their farms, and trying to inspire each other to become better marketers for their small business.
Level up a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the great thing that intrigued me when you and I met in the State House was, you make a good point. Farmers are so busy and they're facing so many challenges of actually operating, running a farm, probably have family to take care of. You know what I mean? They're busy with their day-to-day life. And a lot of times they don't look at getting the word out about whether it's their challenges, to educate us about the challenges of farming, how elected officials can create a better regulatory environment for our farmers here in the state. But also if they are
or non-regulatory.
Right.
environment.
If they are marketing their crops, or if they are marketing their poultry or their beef, just getting that word out there to the local community of, hey, there's a farm store here, or I have an online store here. You were just telling me about an online place down in Chester, or a farm down in Chester, that will deliver, their products to you. Man, we're just north in York County, and I didn't know about this. So, that's a great point, right? On your podcast, you're helping get that word out of local farmers and, what they can offer to families around the state. So, what are some of those conversations that you're having? What are you learning, in doing your podcast and doing the Farmer's Feed and stuff like that? What are you learning? What are some of the struggles that our farmers are going through?
Yeah, I think we are all aware that farmers are in a really tough spot right now. Farming in general, we're losing a lot of farmers. There's a lot of farmland that's being developed.
I'm sure the diesel fuel does not help at all right
exactly. So, coming into this year, farmers were already operating at a huge loss. And when I say huge loss, I mean $700 million in losses in South Carolina, which is unheard of if you think of any other industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that said, agriculture in general is our number one industry in South Carolina. $50 billion, 200,000 jobs. It's really important to really our framework for what South Carolina is, and our local economy and our state economy.
Now, does that Made Local, the South Carolina initiative, does that help out any with that?
That Certified South Carolina, things like that. Yeah, and that's a program through the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. But I think anything that we can do to really try to support our local farmers, shop local, shop directly from the farmer when you can, look for those certified South Carolina signs, certified, South Carolina cafeterias that they have that new program with the schools.
Would more farmers markets help that?
Yeah, we do have a great number of farmers markets. I think the broader issue, though, is that it's a really tight spot right now for the farmers, right? So they came into this year with these losses, and then we had the spike in diesel, right? I think it's 46% increase in farm diesel since February. We have this historic drought, right? We have not had rain. Farmers are looking at dry fields that they were already stressed about whether or not they would be able to plant, because the price of fertilizer, the price of diesel is just really putting them in a really tough situation of having.
I will say what I learned whenever, I was in turf management, but a lot of the fertilizers require petroleum too, and that raises the cost on all of that.
Yep. And these are really things that they're happening now, but they're going to have longer repercussions on not just the farmers, but when the farmers start feeling this, eventually we as consumers are going to start feeling this.
Yeah, and talking with some folks this past week from Farm Bureau, when they start talking about right around COVID, the cost of everything just spiked, right? But the counterpoint was also commodity prices spiked, so farmers were able to manage that increase in costs because they were getting the sales of their goods were sort of correlating. But recently, though, what has happened is the cost has sort of stayed the same, where the prices of their products have steeply declined, and thus operating at that huge loss that you were talking about. And I asked, what are the pragmatic? What's really going on because we wouldn't operate a business at a loss like that. And so
I wasn't that good of a business owner.
So the hard decisions that a farmer has to make is what? Hey, we can't afford to plant 100% of our fields anymore. We can only afford to plant 50%, or just some percentage decrease of planting. So that then creates, my concern is, okay, if you're only planting 50 to 60% of what you have planted in the past, that means your yields are going to be lower. Tack on the drought that you talked about. So now you have less of a supply. The demand is not going to go down. And so you're going to create this huge increase in prices.
Which is going to affect everyday citizens across the state.
Prices and reliance on we're still going to have food.
Right.
We're still going to have fiber. We're still going to have fuel. So it's the reliance on others to supply that if our farmers aren't able to keep up with the demand. At the same time, too, farmers are looking at, should I just retire early? Should I just retire now? The average age of a farmer is somewhere in the 60s, I think. It's coming down a little bit, but there's not enough people getting into farming, which luckily we do have a really strong young farmer 4-H FFA program in South Carolina. But I heard the other day that York County has, I think we have 20% of the 4-H students in the whole state. 20% is in York County. So there is a demand for the next generation.
Wow. Western York.
Yep. It's huge. And I think what we worry is the farmers who are not able to plant, they're not able to retire. You know what happens when a farm closes is usually that means a developer, a subdivision is like waiting at the farm gate. So if we are putting our farmers in situations where they, are so passionate about what they do and being a farmer and living that lifestyle, but when they are having to make decisions on whether they continue, once we lose farmland, it really goes back.
I remember having that conversation with Tommy Atkins out of York County Council, because he's a farmer, and as he came on the county council, he just kept talking about farming constantly. And I was like, I don't really understand this, but his big thing was we got to stop development. And I remember bringing up to him saying, hey, Tommy, you've worked your entire life to build this farm. You have all this land. You're realizing that you're losing money. Is it the government's job to say you can't sell your farm to someone that's going to come in and cash your family out for a long time? What can we do to incentivize farmers to keep the farmland instead of selling out to these big developers?
Yeah, and I do think that is where we have to look at that next generation of farmers. Here in South Carolina, we have things like the John De La Salle School for Agriculture, which is very unique to our state. We have a very strong FFA, very strong 4-H program. We're building the new agriculture arena out in Western York County in Hickory Grove.
Thanks, Dennis Moss.
And Randy Ligon.
Yeah.
But, with those things, we have to make sure that the farms can stay now so that the future farmers can have something to come.
Right. And in talking with farmers this past week, they mentioned needing some just stopgap relief, where we're helping farmers at least break even so they can maintain their operations, plant 100% of their fields and all those types of things. And they have asked the state to come in and help to the tune of $35 million, which is a huge price tag. But if you look at the consequences of, if you don't help support that situation, what could be the negative consequences of lack of food supply, food security, food prices just in general, and how that could affect the general population here in 6 months. You know, our own Senator Wes Clymer put that $35 million in the Senate budget. Yep. And he actually took $35 million out of Commerce's budget and put it in Department of Ag for a bridge grant program that resembles.
Which I think that would help more citizens in South Carolina than Commerce.
That is correct. That's what everyone was thinking as well. And so he did get that done, and this resembles the federal bridge program. So our Department of Agriculture already has a process and knowledge of how to do this and do it well. And so this will basically create a state process and program to help our farmers, at least temporarily. So that Senate budget did pass out with that amount in it. And so now we'll have to consider that in the House. So a little bit of good news for farmers to understand that you do have a state that supports them, and not only just in rhetoric and talk in front of a camera, but also in action by putting that in a budget. I mean, looking at it from what I understand now, it's a wise investment versus the consequences of what we could face if we have a lack of food supply, soaring prices, and we already have an affordability problem. You know, not just here in South Carolina, but our country. And I mean, where ground beef used to be a couple bucks a pound is now $10 and $11 a pound, just for regular 80/20 beef. The impact to folks who are barely making it by, that's huge. And so to see something in the market, if you get a gallon of milk for $4.55, look at it going to 10, and those types of foodstuffs just doubling on folks' household incomes that are making below $60,000 a year. That could be a major wise investment for our state to put $35 million so that those effects don't. Problem is can we contain those locally? Can we contain those just for our state, right? What are some of the national implications of a broader economy? So
it makes it, I mean, and we look at, one of the things that I always look at whenever it comes to ag, why is it that we can get beef from Brazil cheaper,
right,
than what we are getting it here locally?
Yeah.
And is it because of over regulation?
Right.
Are our rules, are our regulations putting this in the problem? Right before we started, we were talking about, a bird, and I won't mention which bird, killing a lot of the poultry.
Yep.
And it's like, but can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I brought up, folks, if you want to listen to a good book, Will Harris, he is a farmer down in, third, fourth generational farmer down in southern Georgia. He has a book called A Bold Return to Giving a Damn. And it's just a great book. You can go listen to it on Audible. He's been on Joe Rogan's show a few times talking about the challenges that he faced being a multi-generational farmer. He has gone back to some old traditional ways of farming, not just this monoculture of farming. And, it's just a great book. It educated me on, what he went through, but then also sort of the opportunities he's taken to make his farm sort of that agro-tourism where you can go down there, stay, like what you said. You got interested in this because you enjoyed good food. And same way with me. I really enjoy good food, and locally sourced always makes me feel better, right?
Don't let him cook for you because it takes like 10 hours.
Hey, but it's good though.
It is good. It is delicious.
But so I encourage folks to go out and listen to books like that. Also, Caroline, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about sort of what you're doing. Maybe, give us how we can get a hold of your content and some of those things.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of partnerships, which has been amazing. that I've, been really working at the state and our local York County level to just try to get more people out to our farms, try to get more people attending farm events, going to pick strawberries, picking peaches, buying local, buying direct, and supporting our farmers here in South Carolina, but especially York County. Obviously, we live in York County and we love our York County farmers. So I work a lot with Visit York County. I partner with them to kind of cover everything agritourism. We know we have an incredible tourism economy here in York County. We have a lot of events going on. And the idea being that our farmers are a huge part of that tourism economy. When people come for the disc golf tournament, when people come to basketball tournaments, how can we give them a unique experience here to make them want to go back and tell their friends wherever they came from? And I think the farms are a really big part of that. You can, the farm to table dinners, you can go and have a lamb play date at a sheep farm out by the Catawba Nation Reservation.
You got Black's Peaches and Windy Hill Orchard.
Yep.
Like I always recommend people going out there whenever
Yep.
they're new to town.
Exactly. Bush and Ryan. I mean, if you're in Fort Mill, right, you have Springs Farm, some of the best ice cream you'll have. So I think that, the more we can do to try to just highlight the stories of our local farmers, try to give them the space to get their business, get their events out in front of customers, is a great thing. So Visit York County, I work with them. You can follow on Instagram. I do a lot of interviews. I was just at Cherry Place Farm with Bailey Westbrook Edwards. They're just an incredible family, I think 6th generation farmer here in York County, which is incredible.
Now, I will say, whenever you're supporting these local farms, you're not just supporting the farms. You're supporting the local businesses that are helping out these farmers. Whenever I own the power equipment supply store or the landscape supply store, we worked a lot with farmers and trying to keep their equipment up, sprayers up, and getting soil and getting nutrients from them.
And again, this has spurred a conversation. I serve as medical sub-chair, and the question is, how do we make South Carolina healthier, right? Like, that's just a broad question I have on a whiteboard. And, we talked about this in a prior episode, probably last year, about I went and had a conversation with our education superintendent, Ellen Weaver, and her staff about how do we get nutritional, locally sourced, whether it's meat, produce, into our schools, right? Like, it seems like that could be a natural loop where we get our school districts working with a local food distributor that could purchase locally sourced produce, meats, beef, poultry, whatever, and get them into our schools, use our cafeterias as workforce development for, say, juniors and seniors who may be going into the hospitality industry, or guess what? Just life skills. If they're going off to college, you need to understand and learn how to cook a meal for yourself, because mom and dad can't do it when you're off at college. And since you and I have been talking, I've been going down that rabbit hole of trying to figure how can we better than Square Pizza, right?
I think Jessica Cody with the Clover School District, she used to do something with that.
So the great
she's
thing
a huge
is,
advocate of that.
I linked up with her and some other folks at PTA. There's some pilot programs going on in Greenville. It's called Farm to School. Talking with Representative Patrick Haddon about this. And, just trying to get some momentum on how do we get better nutritional meals in our schools. And I tell you, it's frustrating when I get, it's complicated and da-da-da. And I'm like, I don't care.
It's hard. I don't want to try.
But it's important though, right? I mean, if you look back, trying to build these habits are so much easier when kids are young. I mean, I have a 3-year-old. And her favorite thing is going out to farms. She loves picking strawberries. She loves growing things in the garden.
Yeah.
She will eat anything that came out of the garden. She'll also eat almost anything if she helps cook it herself.
Right.
So having kids have exposure to local fresh food and start building that habit young is what helps inspire them as they grow in order to,
Could not agree more. And literally the conversations that you and I had and we had with Katie literally just reinvigorated me to get that nutritional meals in school started again. Because we've had it like a year ago, and we literally had an episode, and I think there was we got to be better in Square Pizza, and that's just a challenge that I would throw out to not only our Department of Ag but also our Department of Education. We've got to do this, and the argument can be made that if we invest in nutritional, locally sourced foods and start entering them into our schools for our kids at kindergarten and first and second grade, I think you say it's money well invested, because if they're eating better, they're more healthy, and then when they get to be college age, they're not pre-diabetic.
Well,
Because you're cutting out the ultra high processed foods that right now we are feeding our kids with the cheapest thing we can find, high caloric but terribly processed foods, and I think we could do better.
Can we keep the square pizza and just source the ingredients locally? You're giving me anxiety, making me think I got to get rid of my pizza.
Okay, square cauliflower crust pizza.
Oh, no, we don't want to go that far.
But Caroline Lewis, thank you for joining us. Check her out on the Farmer's Feed, and also
Give us your feed for your podcast.
Yeah.
So the podcast is Raising the Barn. It's anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And then Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of that is the Farmer's Feed. So would love for y'all to join along and come along as we go and tell the stories of our local farmers.
Yep.
So our 2 listeners, she better have 2 new followers.
go check her out. And again, thanks for joining us for this meaningful conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Good deal.
I literally started getting anxiety. It's like Saturday morning cartoons.
Is
here.
that the Saved by the Bell version?
This was still Stacy's mom version.
Oh, gotcha. Just
Saved by the Bell, we'll have to wait until next week and do that one, which
Gotcha.
would be hilarious.
Well, we've
Or
sort of
we
had-
go Captain Planet. I don't know. I hadn't
Stop.
decided yet.
So we had our weekend review segment. We also had Caroline Lewis of the Farmer's Feed come and join us. But we have not talked about one of the bigger issues that we tackled on the floor.
It has to do with farming. We should have.
That's right. So we took up the hemp-derived products bill, or hemp-derived consumables. So just to frame up this conversation, the Senate took a House bill that said anything having all of these chemicals need to be age restricted.
21 and up.
Yep.
Just
21
like our alcohol.
And so the Senate took up that bill and basically did a big strike and insert that more clearly, or got more specific into these hemp-derived products. So gummies could be sold in liquor stores. The higher milligram hemp drinks could be sold in liquor stores. Anything 5 milligrams and down could be sold in convenience stores and grocery stores, but they had to be behind the counter where you get like cigarettes, like customer service counters. So that version of the bill then came back to the House, of which we had a couple of options. We could concur with
Non-concur.
with the Senate bill. We could non-concur, or we could amend.
Right.
And there were several.
There was so much confusion about that because once you amend, there is no concur, non-concur. It just immediately goes back.
You get those 3 options. And
Yeah.
once you go down the path of amend, you're on the path to taking
Right.
up amendments. And so we had 40 amendments that were on the desk.
I think 20 were McCravy's.
Yep.
On banning
Yeah.
anything. Just making sure there's language, which technically THC is illegal. And if you can't enforce it now, how is this really improving it
Yeah.
to begin with? And our ultimate goal is to ensure that these kids under the age of 21 are not getting their hands on it.
At a bare minimum, right?
Yes.
That's what we want. We've talked about this at length on several prior episodes that, man, we're all for some age restriction and some regulatory guardrails, but it seems that the markets have outpaced governmental regulations, right? I mean, these hemp drinks, you can find them in bars and restaurants where you can consume them on premise. You can find them in grocery stores. You can find them in your local convenience stores. And so while the market has been out there, there's still been always this question of, wait a minute, how is this legal if marijuana is legal? And the difference between hemp and THC and CBD and synthetics has all come up in conversation.
But all that was done by the rushing, I don't want to say the rushing, the unforeseen risk of our hemp bill.
Right.
And that's what we didn't want to happen with the Senate's language, because they spent a whole 2 days on fixing the problem.
Right.
And so we wanted to, my goal was to ensure to not vote for any amendments, because once you amend, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
We'll often see these social media posts. Why did you vote to table this amendment? If you amend, you're sending
down
it back.
that path, right?
Yeah, and then you could kill the bill, which now these kids underage can come back and get this product. So it was, no amendments, non-concur, send it to conference.
And so one thing, an interesting wrinkle that happened in the House floor debate was, and again, we were, 10, 15 amendments in. It was, I don't know, somewhere between 1:45, 2 o'clock-ish, where we started getting some communications informally that we were going to break for lunch, because we had we had the South Carolina Hospital Hospitality all out on campus, where what this is it's probably 20 or 30 local restaurants, and they were all serving up their sort of local dishes and
specialty samples.
Yeah. And so it's a fun event for legislators and everybody to go down and enjoy some good culinary treats, right? And so so the word got out that we were about to break for lunch. And
the Democrats didn't think we were breaking for lunch, because I was outside smoking, and some of the Dems were walking out, and I was like, wait, where are y'all going? We're going to break for lunch.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we talked to our guy. He said we're not breaking for lunch.
So they went to go grab a snack real fast and come back.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, the long story short, the outcome was there was a ban amendment that went to a vote. And, that bell doesn't ring anymore outside.
It doesn't ring outside.
And
they claim there was never a bell. I call BS. It used to always ring outside.
There was a bell. And so it used to be if you're out of your seat. So if you're in the cookie room, if you're going to the bathroom, if you're in the lobby, there was a bell that would ring to notify members they had to get back to the floor to make the vote. Long story short, that bell doesn't work anymore. But a vote was called on a ban amendment, and it passed. And after that ban amendment passed, we then went to lunch.
No, we didn't go to lunch right away, because Representative Gatch,
that's right,
who did not want the ban, in my opinion, it was a premature call. Like
it was a mistake. I think
he called for the reconsidering of the vote because he changed his vote at the last minute to vote on the prevailing side.
Yeah.
And that is a strategic move that happens, but you don't call for it right away whenever the body has not changed.
Right. And so,
folks, the results are going to be the same.
So let's say that the vote on the ban prevailed by 18 votes. What you do is, when you looked at the total vote count, we were missing probably 20, 25 members weren't in their seats to make the vote.
Right.
And so what Representative Guffey is suggesting would be, if you vote on the prevailing side of a vote, whether it's on amendment or a bill, you can ask the body for reconsideration.
You only get it once.
Of that vote, right. You only get it once. And so what Representative Guffey was suggesting was we probably should have done some mathematical calculations.
Should have went to lunch, then came back.
Yeah, Representative Gatch probably, I think in hindsight, he probably would agree, he should have waited to make sure all members got back into the chamber to make the vote, because that could have changed the outcome of that. Because once you put a ban amendment on the bill, it structurally changed the whole conversation.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about age restrictions. We weren't talking about safety guardrails around making sure minors don't get this and allowing consenting adults to make a decision to either buy it or not.
Especially when the federal government, the very next day,
right,
changed the scheduling.
Yeah, on marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. And so it was just an interesting debate. And because the ban amendment prevailed, we then had to go in and start putting more amendments on the bill that would age restrict, would put higher milligram or potency caps, those higher milligram products in liquor stores.
Well, this becomes the problem, in my opinion. The bill on the age restriction was a bill on age restriction. The bill that came from the Senate was on regulation.
Yeah.
We weren't debating regulation, we were debating age restriction. You know, you could say that is regulatory, but at the same time, the ultimate goal of the bill was to keep it out of the hands of children, then we could address the issues.
Right.
We'd already seen on the floor during our regulations that the House was basically divided into 3 parts, and there was no consensus there. So the only way for us to go was to non-concur, send back our bill and say, hey, y'all inserted something into our bill that we don't agree with. This was the ultimate goal. Let's move forward. Now we can study this.
Right. At a minimum, first steps are age restriction.
Yes.
Second step should be more regulatory targeting of potency caps, taxing, all of those things.
And then the third step would be a complete ban, which in my opinion, one of the tattoos that I have is fall down 7, get up 8, due to epilepsy. I think that we should, if I can prescribe you opioids through a pill, I should be able to prescribe you THC in the same manner.
And now that the feds have rescheduled, we can actually do studies and research.
But with a total ban, we wouldn't be able to.
Right, on these products. So again, initial first steps from the House perspective, we wanted to put age restrictions on these products that have been on the market for years. What the Senate gave us back was a more comprehensive, sort of a phase 2 plan. And again, that got us into the briar patch, so to speak, once that ban amendment got on. We did amend it. We put age restrictions on it. So we effectively sent the bill back with not only a ban amendment, but also an age restriction of 21 and up, hoping for when we go to conference, we will take the Senate versions and the House versions and take the best parts of each bill that we can agree upon, put it together in a conference report, and then get it back out to the body to where we can vote on that and pass it. So,
which, whenever we came back from lunch, it was, okay, how do we go about this?
Yeah.
If we want the original bill. So let's propose, have the original language as an amendment to go in to override anything that had been put in there. And we made that vote. It fell by 2 votes. It was 48 to 46.
2 votes, yeah.
Right? And there were many members that didn't really understand as we started going around talking, or as I started going around talking, that didn't understand what that vote meant.
Oh, I went around because I went and found a member on the prevailing side of that vote who was willing to call for a reconsideration vote. But before we called it, I wanted to make sure if there were some members in our caucus who, where were they? Why did you vote no? Or why did you abstain from the vote? And I found 3 members who said, I didn't realize that's what this was. I will support tabling that motion to where we could get back to the original bill. And because that tabling motion only prevailed by 2 votes.
Right.
So once we got those 3 Republicans that said that they would either now vote in support of our position or change their votes, I was like, okay, we're now sort of, if everyone votes the same way, we're in the game here. Well, then 3 Democrats get back to the floor and said, wait a minute, what happened? And they were going to jump in support of that side too. Some members who were sponsoring the effort or leading the debate on the floor that
Did
were
not trust that.
No, we're in our caucus, and they heard that, I was trying to get some support to reconsider, and they came to me and said, hey, what are you doing? And I talked to them about it, and they said, no, hey, man, I know the ban, got this thing all mired up, but we do have a plan to address that where we can take it to conference and get something that we can all agree upon. And I said, hey, as long as you have a plan, I'm fine with. I said, but I'm not in support of what we're now doing. And so I told
honestly,
both,
the majority of the body, regardless of what the vote said, the majority of the body is not in support of a complete ban.
correct. A third of the room is.
Yeah.
A third. And so, but that third somehow was able to conflate some issues and take advantage of some situations where folks weren't in the room. And again, to their benefit, that was a good strategy. Then if that's what they really wanted.
If that was the strategy,
yeah,
yes.
they won out.
Could have
there
just been timing.
on that. That's right. But I told the members who were sort of leading the debate for our side, I said, look, if you tell me that you can take this to conference and get what we want, then I'll trust you.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I mean, because
So now in conference, they basically have three choices: our bill, the Senate bill, or complete ban.
well, and hopefully we can give them free conference to where they can cut and paste and take the best versions that we can get votes in the Senate and in
I
the
just
House.
don't know if I trust the free conference.
I am going to trust it until they give me a reason that I can't.
I think them amending the bill tells me I can't trust what they're going to do in free conference.
Well, we'll see.
Our original intent was to keep it out of the hands of kids. We sent it over there. You screwed it up and sent it back.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Right. Maybe we'll get a couple swings at this pitch. But that was
Neither one of us will be on conference.
that was some of the big news that was sort of came off the House floor. I thought this week. I mean, we were busy. We did a lot of stuff. There was a lot of other, and when I say smaller bills, I don't want to take anything away from any of the efforts. But there was a lot of things going on this week that were passed. But that I would say
Trying to get the House bills out
yeah.
of committee, make sure they're over to the Senate in time,
Yep.
and continue working.
And folks, we do have a lot of House priorities, parental rights being one of them, the REINS Act, cutting
Yes.
out government regulations.
Shazam.
Yeah. And
I'm going to say it's a House priority.
we still have medical pricing transparency that was on the agenda. That meeting got canceled because of the Senate budget process. So I think the Senate's taking that up next week. Also, getting rid of physician non-competes. That's on a meeting agenda next week as well. So look for that. PBM reform. Sorry to say, we're not going to get anything done.
Probably next year.
Yeah, and lastly, I'll say we've made it an annual tradition where we go to art fields over in Lake City. Several House of
Haven't ever been.
Representatives, several senators go over there and just support. Just that whole thing. Art fields is a great thing for artist submissions to come in and present their art and display that art. And it's also good. It's sort of like Come See Me here in Rock Hill. It's sort of Lake City's spring festival that just lets them showcase what they're doing, what's going on there in that community. And it's always great to go over there and support that. We stay
And I would love to go.
Yeah.
I just, every time it's a scheduling conflict.
But it's always good to get over there and support that community. But during those festivities, I had 5 folks come up to me. 2 of them talked about just thanking to sort of the attention that we're bringing to pharmacy benefit managers and the business practices that's hurting independent pharmacists and also patients with lack of access to drugs, steering them to affiliated pharmacies. But also from 3 doctors that just came up and said, hey man, we catch your reels from the podcast and, just enjoy the spirit of which you guys are trying to make some changes to the healthcare landscape here in South Carolina. So always good to see that the 2 listeners are getting the word out there, that...
like, share, subscribe.
That's right. But next week...
Next week, so I've got to speak in Myrtle Beach on Monday morning. Going down there for a conference. I think Representative or Speaker Pro Tem Tommy Pope is speaking as well. I have a hard stop at 2:30, and then I have to go and speak in Richburg for another event, and then I fly out to L.A. on Tuesday.
L.A., watch out.
Yeah.
The guff is coming.
Are y'all ready for the politics? Now, I'm getting an award. It's a national award for protecting children online, Sammy Chapman Award, and this was by a nonprofit that was the entire state of California's nonprofit of the year. So it is a big deal. It's a big gala, however you want to say it. I have to make sure I'm wearing a tux and all that good stuff.
Walking the red carpet?
Yeah, and they wanted like a pre-typed out speech, which I don't do. I said, just give me some bullet points and I'll go from there. And then we also have Palmetto Families event on next week as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be the first session that I'm missing this year.
Okay.
Because I've tried to schedule everything after days that we're in session.
Right. All I'm saying is you better get a bigger trophy case.
Need a bigger office.
all these Academy Awards and Nobel Peace Prize for Literature.
I need one of those chairman positions, so that way I've got a bigger office so I can put some stuff in. You know.
Right. So good luck. On your safe travels.
I mean, I
next week.
think it should be okay. I
Yeah.
don't know. Just pray for no earthquakes. I don't
Yeah.
go to California.
Yep. So we've got some full committee work next week as well in 3M, and we've also. Do we have the DOT bill coming to the floor next week?
From my understanding, the DOT reform bill will come to the floor next week.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of debate on that. There's going to
that should
be.
be. Important
I think
issue.
there's going to be a lot of amendments that are proposed that will be taken care of in kind of catch-all
Gotcha.
amendments.
Okay.
So don't be misled by these social media posts that say, "Oh, they wanted to vote against this." I mean, first of all, if you've got an idiot proposing the amendment, no one's going to listen to them anyway. So we're going to kind of follow a lead of the majority of at minimum, the Republicans.
Well, and also
That's the point of having the majority, right?
This has been an important discussion that we've had for almost a year now. I mean, literally last summer, we got named to the ad hoc committee. We've been traveling around the state. We've listened to communities from around our state with their concerns. I think this bill accurately reflects the results of some of those conversations. I don't think where you start from isn't where you end from, and a lot of folks, when we've had these initial meetings, take some comments from either members or folks giving testimony out of context and saying this is what the policy result will be, and that's just not true. So let's see what the end bill looks like. And that should reflect the results of these conversations. So,
And look, I'm not going to be there to vote next week.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible timing. I really wish I could, especially after spending so much time on this committee,
On the tour.
traveling,
doing the legwork.
However, every time someone asks me, "Where are you on this?" I would often say, "I'm following Gary Brewer." Gary Brewer understands our highway system.
Yeah. He's been a consultant for a long time.
Yeah. He understands it.
Yep.
And so it's similar to the hemp bill. I'm following Greg Ford. This is the guy that understands all aspects of it. And you have to learn you can't be an expert in every field. You have to learn who to trust until they betray that trust.
Right. And some folks will tell you they're experts in every single field.
Yeah.
You decide for yourself.
Yeah.
But
I
anyway,
know who was the CSAM expert.
we do
But
have.
he's no longer in the body.
We do have. Hot damn. That's a hot take from the
How's
Guster.
prison feeling, RJ?
So we do have that important debate coming up next week. And folks, thanks for joining this episode. Thanks for listening, supporting the show.
Continue to like, follow, subscribe. Follow us on pintsandpolitics.show. Any of your local podcast channels you can catch us at, and the majority of your social medias. We just realized we don't have LinkedIn, so we're going to have to add that one on
Yeah,
there.
that's right. Man, a professional dashboard for Pints and Politics on LinkedIn coming soon. And again, thanks for Comer Distributing for this week's tasty beverage, Primal Brewery out of Belmont, North Carolina.
Juiciest.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it.
I like that one better than the cheer wine
It's definitely better than
that
Cheer
you
Mine.
selected. But again, thanks for watching.
I just
Thanks for
figured
tuning
Heath
in.
wanted something fruity.
And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah. Yeah. Well, I woke up to a headline, same lie, dress new. Suit on the TV, telling me what's true. They shake your hand with one, take your wallet with two. Smile real wide while they voting against you. Neon lights flicker, bars half full. Old man arguing laws, nobody reads through. So we pour one strong, let the record spin. If you wanna know the truth, pull up and listen in. There's truth on tap and lies on